Hey y'all, it's Wednesday. This is Marissa Alexander, and this is Thinking Out Loud. Have you missed me? Because I missed you. Give you a hug. Bring it in. Bring it in. Some of y'all need a hug. How are you doing? This is Thinking Out Loud, and I have not recorded this. It's been about a week or two ago. Just the last one that I recorded. So I am back. I had a lot going on. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And how I was able to kind of get through it, because sometimes those things happen. And I can tell you I was exhausted and tired. So I guess the premise is always that you can't get better days if you don't make it through the nights. And that's kind of always playing in my mind. It's going to be okay. And God willing, tomorrow it'll be better. If not better, at least I have another day, right? So what y'all been up to? How you been doing? Tell me what's been going on. There's been a lot going on in the world. Tell me how you feel about that. I'm on the fence right now because I haven't had time to actually formulate any opinions. I like to do some reading and research, but maybe I'll get into a little bit of that later on. But I do know that one of the things that was in my spirit, I had a dream, and it was just about praying, because we can only do so much, and then it has to be left to a higher power, and just you can't do everything. So anyway, that's what's been going on in the world, the things you could think of. Tell me what probably is the most alarming to you. I think I will tell you mine, and then we're going to go into like my week, the updates, my mom's surgery, and me being pulled over by the police. Me being pulled over by the police. Yes, I was. But I'm here. So everything went well, right? We'll get into that. So I think one of the things that has been the most interesting, being that I am from Florida, is this shooting that took place down south, and the video recording of the gentleman getting out of the car and ski mask in the back of this place, I suppose. And now there's $130,000 reward. And I actually was kind of just sitting there thinking, like, trying to in some way kind of try to, like, okay, help me understand how does one become so disconnected from humanity that that's something that just like takes over, like that level of darkness, to be able to just be like, you know what, I'm just going to spray the club up. I need help with some understanding. And I don't know that I will ever understand, but I am curious as to what it is for you that has resonated. And maybe it wasn't something as tragic as that. Maybe you had some like really, really super things. So I'd love to hear about that too. Hey, Andre, what's going on? So my mom had knee replacement surgery. It's going on 2 weeks ago on Monday. And she's doing well. She's doing really well. And for her, she's in her mid 60s, and she had never had surgery before. And, me and my brother and my sister, I want to just give them a shout out, Helena Jenkins and Raphael Jenkins, because we as siblings just made sure that early on, once the date was set, that we would do everything that we could to prepare. So that's basically the nuts of that situation with my mom's surgery. It needed to go down. It needed to happen. It was prolonged for as long as it needed to be. But preparation and accommodation was the main factor in that being so smoothly. And just a lot of prayers too. A lot of people really praying with her and for her. We talked a lot about it beforehand. We had to make quite a bit of adjustments just to her home a little bit, and to her driving arrangements. And those things took some time. And what was a blessing for me is having siblings that everybody has like really great strengths, that everybody chipped in to do their thing. Nobody was power tripping. Everybody just did what needed to be done. And it was just fabulous. And so I think that helped my mom at least ease her a little bit, knowing that we were all there talking with one another. We were texting each other, and what we didn't need to concern her, we wouldn't, because we knew that there was other things going on. All of us when we could go to the appointment. So she did not go to appointments on her own. And of course, the day of surgery, my brother and I were at the hospital. And I spent the first night with her in the hospital, and she was doing so well that she was released the following day. So a pretty major surgery. And again, just preparation and just being able to understand at some point, because there was a lot of changes that was taking place right up until the time that she actually had the surgery. We needed to be mindful that some of that was a bit overwhelming, because in addition to the things that we were doing at her house and other things for her, she also had to take care of the side of her work with FMLA paperwork and things of that nature. So we were making sure that we could do what we could to help her make that transition easy. And it's just not for someone, who is used to kind of being, she's on her own, doing her own thing, and having to really be dependent on us, which, I believe it's been a blessing that we've been able to be there. And I'm also very fortunate because my son came home from college. And so he also has stayed over there. He volunteered to do that, to help out with my mom, which was just phenomenal. Makes me very proud as a mother. And so she is doing really well. Her pain is managed very well. I had a lot of people that I reached out to. Andre's one of them. My father has had the knee replacement surgery, and just to get an idea of what to expect, and also just check on her. And she felt very loved and welcomed and taken care of. And so I'm blessed. And, it's just a lot of work, listening to physical therapists and, making recordings of it. And again, all that was preparation. So then when we got her home, I could share the videos with my siblings, making sure bathrooms were set up and things like that. So that, she was okay. Her pain has been managed very well. And I suspect that she will be back to being her normal self in no time. But I guess the main point of that is just understanding that being prepared and making those accommodations is the key to, not completely overwhelming and being like last minute on that type of thing, because those things can be stressful. And I know that because of the changes that she, had to go through, and just, going through surgery is a major thing. It's not to be taken lightly. At some points when she became overwhelmed, we just, I had to take a step back and be like, I want her to do these things, and I need her to do these things. So, I need her to understand that we're doing these because we were trying to make things better for her. But if it was overwhelming for her, that care needed to not be control. That care needed to be compassion. And so, just something to keep in mind when you're working with somebody that you care so much about, and you're trying to get them to, do these things. And, we see what we're trying to do, but it's a lot for them, and just being able to have some compassion. So that's that. The next thing was just during that time, one of my projects was having a full out audit. So that required a lot of information gathering and things like that during the same time that my mother was having surgery, as well as me having my youngest daughter home with me during that week, during our time sharing with me that week. So trying to coordinate her schooling and, her pickup and her drop-offs, and me trying to be there with my mom and then come back home at some point if I could, and spend some time with her. That was a bit much, because we live about 20 minutes apart. So, and then the hospital was a whole nother 15 to 20 minutes, depending on the traffic from my mother's house. So, just a lot of coordinating efforts. But again, I was very fortunate, that I took the stances that I communicated that I was going to be, having this, this obligation with my mom, and recognizing at points that I could only do what I could do. I was going to do the very best I could to do only what I could do. And then what I couldn't do, I would just communicate whatever challenges I was having, or I would just say, hey, I'll get this to you, X, Y, and Z. And I'm very fortunate that, that was received well, because that was primarily my responsibility to make sure the documentations and things that were being requested was given to these auditors. And whenever they requested information, sometimes I did not have it on me, being that I was at my mother's house or at the hospital. And so just being mindful, I had my laptop with me all the time and doing the best I can. And then it was an instance where something came up that I didn't necessarily have. And I was so tired. And I said I needed to get some rest. And so I said, you know what, let me make the decision to get some rest, because if I don't, then everything is going to fail. And I think that's one of the things that we have to be mindful of, that when we have a lot going on and we're pushing ourselves, if we push ourselves to the brink of exhaustion because you can't outrun fatigue, you're not going to be any good to the people that need you or your obligations. So it is a good, practice to get into and not to feel selfish about it, that you would just be like, you know what, I'm gonna take a minute and just try to get me some rest. And that's what I did. And I set my alarm for like 5 o'clock the next day so I could get up and knock that stuff out. And, that was it. Like I said, do the best that I could. At some point, some files I was trying to upload were not successful. And that was a bit frustrating. And what do? You just communicate that you're having an issue and try to go about fixing it. And so that's what I did, because I knew that there wasn't nothing I could do. I had tried my best. And when my best was not hitting the mark, I just took a step back and communicated that. And the people were very reasonable in helping me be able to find a workaround solution for getting those files to them. So that's just something to think about. Again, just knowing that when you're doing your very best and it's all you can do, then that's all you can do. I am not woman. And there's a practice that I get into when I overload myself, because I'm kind of like, some of you all may relate to this. Like, it's things that I want it done, like I want it done a certain way. And it's kind of like maybe some overachievement or something, but I have to remind myself to be humble and be like, listen, Marissa, you are not Jesus. You cannot turn like water into wine. So just, sit down and chill out. And that little pep talk about not being able to turn water into wine is a good humbling thing. Like, if I could, I would bathe the wine. No, I'm just playing. But no, seriously, but that's what I had to tell myself. So, people are willing to work with me. Again, if you have obligations and you can't meet them, I think people are more receptive if you're honest. I know oftentimes people are not honest because, people give people a hard time about not making their obligations, but I'm not someone who wants to offer a lot of excuses. And so the track record is going to also make a difference on whether or not they're going to be reasonable. And then the other thing is just, stuff happens. And so people are more likely if you just be honest. I think people are willing to work with you. So a lot of people who don't, and for whatever reason. So again, you cannot turn water into wine. If you can, let's get a business set up. Holla at me. And then the last story is, oh y'all, I got pulled over by the police. One time pulled me over, y'all. And you're wondering, like, what was you doing? Well, see, what had happened was, all right, so I'm like on my way home, and I get I get onto the highway. So I'm getting on, like, to merge onto the highway. And so this car was at the light, and they also, how like you merging on from this lane, and then there's a light that's turning, that's coming on to merge at the same time. You kind of have to like meet that whole figure it out thing. And so they were kind of like right behind me. And I was like, okay, well, of course, that's where you accelerate, especially when you're going onto the highway. So that's what I did. Well, what happened was, when I accelerated to make sure I, get up there and merge into the traffic onto the highway, so did the car behind me, which is cool. We both got to accelerate. That's what it's supposed to happen. Well, they were like right on me. So I'm like, okay, so I got over. They got behind me, and I was like, what the hell? So then I was like, let me just speed up a little bit because now I'm going with the flow of traffic. Okay. But they're like right on my tail. So then I said, okay, well, let me slow down, go over to the far right lane so that if they need to pass, they can pass me on the left lane. Guess what they do? They follow behind me. So now I'm going into full panic mode, y'all, because this is nighttime, by the way. Now, personally, I wasn't looking to see who it was. Like, I wasn't like, who is that dude? I just was like, listen, let me go get over. Because let me tell y'all, it's a lot of road rage. I don't know if you're experiencing it. People have lost their ever-loving mind. And I don't think that it's so much that, people have, y'all have lost your mind, really, some of y'all. But I also think that just people are anxious and antsy and kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like people are like ready for a fight, you know what I mean? Like anticipating some, whatever. And people are on some, listen, if you ready to do it, I am too. And very aggressive in the driving nature. And I think we've heard some reports of people, having road rage and children are being killed. It's just bananas because they really out here in these cars like F your life. Like, I don't, understand like how that works. But nonetheless, that is what went on with me that night. So I got into the far right lane. The person hopped behind me. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe they need to get over and get off onto the next exit. I needed to get into the middle lane just in case that's what they wanted to do. So I ended up having to speed up a little bit, hop in front of like a semi and kind of speed up so that the semi didn't have to, come up on me. You know what I mean? Because I'm thinking maybe this person is following me. They needed to do their thing and then get off. I got off to the far right lane. Maybe they needed to get off on the next exit coming. And then I can get into the middle lane and they can pass me. Hopefully y'all can follow me with this. Well, no, that didn't happen. So then they hopped over for me. I'm like, well, God darn. So now my heart is racing. So I sped a little, and it was a car in front of me. So I sped up a little bit, and I'd be darned if they flashed their lights, like police light, like the red, blue. Y'all, I was like, oh, you know what I mean? And what was I thinking? My first thought was, oh, well, it is what it is. Like, you know what I mean? And I could tell you as much as I was saying to myself, like, oh, well, just remain calm, get your license out. The end goal is if you got to get you a ticket, boo, just ride this out and get a ticket. Like, that's the goal. But my body was kind of like, I was breathing and I was anxious. And that's kind of the first time that's happened to me. I haven't been pulled over quite a bit in my life. Last time I had some run-ins with the police, it was quite a bit of them, and SWAT was getting ready to be called. So I have just a little bit of PTSD with them, but I've kind of resolved that issue. I'm not like at war with police in my heart, but you get my point. So I was like, dang, you know what I mean? Like, okay, let me just get my, my license and registration, make this little transaction, this little meeting easy. I could be on my way. So I'm sitting there and I'm waiting. And of course, like they're lights. So they're in like a SUV. So the lights are like really bright, sitting up in my rearview mirror, which intensifies this anxiety. Cause I'm like, and it took a while for them to get out the car. So I'm like, well, hell, I ain't got no warrants. I know I ain't got no warrants. Like, what's taking them so long? I know my stuff is squeaky clean. At a bare minimum, they might have got me from speeding, but I had already thought, well, I mean, I thought you was tailing me. So, it is what it is. It wouldn't have mattered. If she'd have said, like, you ran a red light on the highway, and I would have been like, you're right. Because I can just took it to court. But I'm not trying to get into an antagonistic situation. The goal is de-escalate, remain calm, and get myself to the house, period. That's it. So it ended up being a female officer, and she came over because we were on the highway. So the highway would have been to this side, which would have been my left, and she came over to the right. And she was like, is there any reason why you was going 100 miles per hour? I said, was I? Y'all, I was not going 100 miles per hour. I said, was I going 100 miles per hour? I said, I don't think I was going 100 miles per hour, which let me know, because she couldn't like I questioned that she and I had to kind of have a difference of opinion on that. I am not a cop, but nonetheless, I was like, was I? Because I just was trying to get over, because I saw somebody behind me. Was that you? She said, don't insult my intelligence. I said, how would I do that? She said, I was in an unmarked car. I said, I'm sorry. I don't have like a skill set of recognizing unmarked cars. She was like, at one point you got right beside me. I said, ma'am, I wasn't looking. I was looking ahead. I wasn't looking to the side at that point. I said, but you know what? You're right. I just knew you were tailing me, and I became a little unraveled, and I wanted to make sure that if I got over and you needed to pass me, that's the reason why I got over to the far right lane. Well, that worked. And she was like, okay, well, I'm just going to let you off with a warning. I said, you know what? I appreciate that. Like I do. I appreciate you letting me off with a warning. Because my thought process is that I have seen people on the highway tailing people, and like you've heard the stories, and it's late at night. I'm in the car by myself. Just happened that day. I happened to be a Black woman that day. I do change colors. I'm just joking. But anyway, so I was kind of like, okay, let's just remain calm. But I had my license and my registration just ready to be like, if she was going to write me a whole fat ticket, I was just going to have to eat it. Because like I said, the goal was just not to make the situation worse. Well, I know that everybody doesn't have that experience. I know based off of some friends that I know that sometimes based on their record and other things that they have had, that they will pull up with their guns drawn out. They have had that happen. It has been very, very traumatic for them and very, very terrifying. I was grateful that that was not my experience. And again, the whole point of me telling you that is just that I kind of did what Martin's character in Bad Boys for Life did. I penetrated that officer's soul with my heart. I'm joking. I pray every morning for traveling mercy. I pray every morning for traveling mercy, not only for myself and my family, but for other drivers and commuters as well. So, that's just it. Just remain calm. And, sometimes if, you don't know how a situation is going to pan out, the less is more. When she spoke, I spoke. And other than that, I had everything ready to just go because I knew that I didn't have anything, on me or, against me. I wasn't, whatever the case may be. But being that I told her, I was like, you were trailing me and I had no idea you were the police. And, you were kind of like on my tail and didn't know what, who you were and what you had going on. God's grace, everything worked out. And I'm here to tell you about it. So be careful out there. I think next time I will just stay in the far right lane and go 50 miles per hour, and you can cuss and yell and blow your horn at me, because what we're not doing is getting pulled over by JSO or FOP. I'm good. Let me see what y'all got going on here today. Hey, Dominique. Hey, Joshua. Yes, Connie, we got to take care of ourselves. Y'all really be careful out there. There's a lot of people on edge. There's a lot of people who are dealing with things internally and in their homes, in their lives, in their job situations, that we will never really be able to know by the way that they carry themselves, even by the cars that they drive. I think that it's incumbent upon us to be as responsible in the way that we handle people as best as we can, because so a lot of people out here just need some compassion. I'm not saying deal with anything, because that's not how I roll either. I'd much rather put myself in a position as best I can where I limit the risk. You know what I mean? So for me, I had to think in advance how I would want to do things. And like I said, being that, in some ways I kind of panicked. Now I know, just, go 50 miles per hour, And I think the last point to that is that if it was a situation where it wasn't police, right? And these are things that crossed my mind, so I'm going to share it with you. And there was somebody who was just upset, because I've seen that happen. And they, kind of keep after me, and I stop and then they stop. And, what am I supposed to do if, in fact, I come into a situation where there's a confrontation? Do I just, stay in the car? Okay, sure. Stay in the car and do what? Call the police? Okay, depending on how long it takes to get there, maybe that's an option. Who knows? But what if they have a weapon, right? And some people are like, some people carry. Some of y'all are carry. You can still carry. And I used to be too before I got a felony. And so in the state of Florida, with this felony conviction, I cannot have a firearm, let alone even be by one. And that's a concern for me as a woman, that frequently has to travel at night, even sometimes travel, oftentimes by myself. And, and sometimes in areas doing some of the work that I have to do, which is kind of one of those things that we really can't talk about because it's really confidential, that could put me in a position where, I could be harmed. And I really, struggle with the fact that, that puts me in a position. What am I supposed to do if they in fact have something that's going to harm me, like pull out a sword or something? Maybe I could just penetrate their soul with my heart. Let me see if I could talk to Melissa Nelson about that. State legislators, see if that works. But nonetheless, the idea is just, to try to mitigate things before they happen as best as I can, and then let God do the rest. Because right now it's terribly one of those situations, every man for himself and God for us all. So keep praying, keep praying. It does work. As much action as you can, do that. Dominique, at the very least, try to understand where the person is coming from. If there can be no resolve, agree to disagree and move on. Yeah, some people are past that. If you have somebody who is okay with a little conflict in terms of reasonableness, sure. But if you got somebody that may be dealing with some mental issues and things like that, it's going to be one of those things where you're going to have to really be humble and walk away. The going back and forth and a tit for tat is getting a lot of people killed. And not even doing that is getting people killed. So again, that was kind of way off a tangent, but my concern is just really my safety. And I was grateful that I got a warning, even though I felt like I was being tailed. I was not going to sit there and argue with this woman at night about that. Like, okay, right, man, taking it, keep it moving, or thank you for the warning. But in the event that that's something that does happen, I'd say stay calm. So I'm telling you all these stories and kind of giving you these updates because I have set my mind up in a practice to do this, is prepare as best as I can. You know what I mean? I'm be prepared. And honestly, starts at the beginning of my day with meditation and prayer. I literally have to put that over, all of us. And we really should be praying for one another. The other thing is in preparing, and then just recognizing when you could do your very best and when you can't do anymore. And not stressing ourselves and all that, cup running over. I have no intentions on trying to be Superwoman. That ain't even the job I signed up for, because what do I need God for if that's what I'm gonna do? I do the very best I can, and that's what I'm gonna do. And I haven't had any issues with that yet. And then the other thing is just like I said, remain calm and make prudent decisions, and everything gonna be okay. That's another thing I tell myself every day. It's okay. I don't say everything is going to be okay. I just say it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. I say that to myself sometimes when I'm very overwhelmed, and it does eventually be okay. So that's all I got. I appreciate y'all following me. Check this out. So this is my last recording in this space. I have been working on a new space. And so the next time we meet together again on Thinking Out Loud, I will be in my new space. And I hope you guys dig it, because it was a vision that I had. I dug it. Hopefully you dug it too. And so that's that. So hope you enjoy this little scenery back here, all this blue and this ocean, because it's getting ready to be different next week. And also make sure you join, sign up at MarissaAlexander.com so you can get updates and different things as to what's going on in my next coming projects and videos and all that other jazz that I got going on. So I appreciate you guys hanging out with me today. I'm so glad to see you. Take care of yourselves and one another. Peace out.